So I love it. So,
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
hi Shay, hi Deb.
Morning.
Did everybody get the handout that I sent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to share that on my screen too as we're talking about it, but it'd be helpful if you had your own copy.
Okay.
Morning, guys. How's everybody doing this morning?
Pretty good.
Are the other classes going pretty smoothly?
Sure.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part? I was doing some research during our time in between classes, trying to figure out how I could more easily toggle between screens, and I'm not sure I've gotten some tips, but I haven't really been able to make them work. So do my best here in between the PowerPoint that we're going to look at today and the handout. So I've gotten references from everybody except for 4 people. And so get those references in as soon as you can. Before we end today, I'm going to try to share anyway, another student's reference page and the feedback that I gave to them. And I will be working on those to give you that feedback, later on today. See if I can't get that done for everybody. But some of the things that people are missing is that the titles. I guess one caution I would have for you is when you're looking at your references, it will give you a reference notation for your article, and you can copy that in APA, but you also have to look at it because several times the title is still capped all the way. And what can someone tell me what the rule is about capping the reference titles?
Isn't it like the first letter after, like the beginning letter and then after dashes and stuff?
Yeah, it's the first word of the title.
Yeah.
And then if there's a colon, that means there's a subtitle and the first word of that subtitle. And then also proper nouns like the USA or England or somebody's name. You would also capitalize that, leave that capitalized, but all the other words are not capitalized. And then another thing that I've seen a lot of people have missed is the hanging indent. And to find that hanging indent format, well, I'll see if I can't show you when we get together on that other Word document. Okay, Caroline's having some trouble with her video, but she's in with us, so that's good. So we're missing 4 people yet, so we'll wait just a moment. David, did you hear any more from June? No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing really, but I know he's been having trouble with Zoom on his laptop.
Yeah. When I asked him, I guess I know you don't have to make an account to join a Zoom session, but that may help him. You know,
It might.
depending on his laptop, if that's the feedback that I gave him. So I didn't hear any more back from him.
It'd be a little easier if we didn't have to social distance.
That's right. That's right. Is he in town? Do you know if he's
He's still at school. He's in the process of moving out, I believe, actually.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're gaining some more people. There's Josh. So again, those references, just be sure that you're looking them over if you're getting them right from EBSCO or ProQuest or wherever you're getting your in your resource search, in your reference search, your source search. Just make sure you're looking at them to make sure they are in the right format, because many times they're not correct, which is too bad. But again, that hanging indent, I'll see if I can't show you how to do that. I think we'll go ahead and get started, guys. I'm going to share my screen here, and so crafting powerful writing, that's what you can see, correct?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay. Let me go back then.
Now we can.
Oh, now you can. Okay, it's just a little bit slow. Okay. So again, what we're going to talk about, I think I said that the title was Crafting Powerful Sentences, but it really talks more of a broader scale. And the information I'm sharing today came from a textbook that I pulled out what I thought was important on this topic. So we'll just move right along here. Okay, so first of all, when you're talking, and in your case, knowing who, I mean, in any case, you want to know who your audience is. And this isn't just you maybe audience, you maybe think it's a speaker, but your audience is also your reader. So for you, I want you to write this paper thinking about how you can help your fellow classmates, okay? The purpose of all of this is for us to be able to dig into 15 different topics in depth that we have not got time to do in the class, okay? So to give you more awareness, and also let's just talk about, right now let me look at the list of what, okay, so Ariel is going to be talking about improving your listening skills. Okay, so why do they need to know that? And just for in the future, if you contact me for a recommendation, I'm going to talk about that paper. I'm going to talk about Ariel, one of her paper topics was improving your listening skills. So please, feel free to ask it, because to me, when you've written an 8 to 10 page paper on this topic, you're going to be an expert on this. And that's what you need to remember as you're writing and as you're presenting, both. But again, I just like the recommendations to be real rather than just saying they were a great student and whatever. It helps to have some kind of reference to what kind of work you did for me. Okay, so and again, for you to be prepared, I will share that letter with you so you're prepared when you interview with somebody that they may be talking about that. So does that make sense? You have to know who your audience are, who your audience is going to be, and your audience again is the reader or someone that's in the audience when you're speaking. Okay, so number 2 is people are going to consider what your credentials are, your knowledge and expertise. Now, right now, you probably don't have a lot of credentials behind your name, and that's all right. You have experiences, you have knowledge, and you have expertise in different areas. So again, in the writing, it is good to talk about that, to assure them that you know what you're talking about, okay? And you can back up the message and the content that you're presenting. And so lots of times in writing, what I like to see, sometimes in writing, you're told to only use, I think you're told not to put your own personal feelings in the writing. I want you to do that. that just shows that you've thought about this, and there may be some things that you challenge that you found in the research, or you may find a couple of different sources are kind of against each other. And so I think lots of times which way you would go with, well, let's just talk about the listening. I'm going to pick on Ariel here for just a minute. The listening, any strength of yours as a listener can also become a weakness if you have too much of that. If you're going to listen and not ever say anything, that's not a good thing. So again, you may find out that one source says something you agree with, the other source says something that maybe you kind of question that is against what the other person said, but in different cases, it depends on what you would use, okay? Step number 3, demonstrate honesty and sincerity. This will earn you trust with the readers and with your people that you're presenting to, okay? And again, you're not, I would caution, and this is going to come out in some of the things we're going to review today, you know, not to come out as arrogant and pompous that I know everything. I don't know that anyone respects someone that thinks they know everything, because of course none of us do. And then the last thing there is to believe in yourself, and really believing that that will be reflected in your performance, in your writing, and in your presentation. Okay, so I think this is a great slide to start us off here. You need to make sure that you're confident in what the content is, okay, that you believe the content. So again, instead of being kind of wishy-washy, if you're kind of wishy-washy, I hope this information will be helpful to you. Well, a better way of saying that, a more positive way of saying that, is I'm pleased to be able to share this information with you. Makes sense? Hopefully it makes sense to you. If you're trying to sell something, they gave an example of like a service contract, and that could be for you know, upkeep of appliances or whatever. We trust you'll want to extend your service contract. Well, does that mean you're not going to trust them if they don't extend it? So a better way of saying that is, when you extend your service contract, you can continue to enjoy top-notch performance from your equipment. Okay, so just a different way of saying it. The hope and the trust should probably not be in the statements that you make, because you're just being more positive and more confident. So just something to think about. Confidence in the content. Okay. Okay, so the next style and tone, we're going to talk about finding the right tone for your paper and your presentation. Again, a lot of this boils over into the presentation also, but finding the right tone. Okay, so there's an example of stuffy, which is too formal, conversational, which is they give a lot of examples on the best choice for business communication, and then unprofessional. And so we're going to toggle over to, let me get rid of one of these screens here, because I'm afraid that's what it's going to toggle over to. We're going to go over to the very first of the handout. So let me move this over so it's in the right screen. Get it the right size. I think that's a good size. You guys can see it, correct?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. So when we're talking stuffy, let me see if I can't make this a little bit bigger, and maybe you can see it a little bit better. I have it on a big screen, so of course I can see it. So let's look at that stuffy example. What is, and then just take a few minutes to look at the stuffy example and the conversational example, and what is the difference between those. So take a few minutes, just a couple minutes to look at those. So what are the differences? If you want to talk, go ahead and unmute yourself.
It looks like the conversational one is a little bit more concise than the stuff you won.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's some of the words that kind of, what are some of the examples? Can you talk about that, David?
Let me give it a look. As you were also informed, and then all talking about the impressive network of doctors. It's just a lot of filler.
Yep, there is. There is. And when you're writing, I mean, this is an example of kind of like a memo, but one thing that I see in papers, and this is a warning for you, what I see in papers lots of times is a writer will say, as Dick Richards said in his article, blah, 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 blah. Well, that information doesn't need to be in the paper, because what you do, you talk about that information and then you put the site from where it came from. So I see that as a faux pas that people make, that they think that every source they have to explain who they are and what the article was from. And, you know, as this person said in Newsweek, in the article of May 14th, blah, blah, blah. You know, so anyway, that's a little bit something that just came to me from the writing. But you can see that it's much more concise, and time is important for people. You want to keep their attention. If you see that there's a lot of kind of superfluous different things in there that make things more complicated, the whole point is to talk in simple language, okay? And like you were just talking to them. So I think I mean, I don't think if you were talking to them over the phone, you would say enclosed, I hope you found the information that was requested during our blah, 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 blah. You know, you can see, and really looking at these, you can almost, let's say that you could look at your own writing and you could almost cross out different parts of it, correct? Say it more simply. That would be something I would hope you'd learn from. And then of course, the unprofessional, too casual. I don't know what IMHO stands for. Do you guys know?
In my honest opinion.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. So the later, L8R, you guys probably know that one too. Does everybody know that? Say yes or no. I mean, shake your heads, yes or no. Do you know that? Did you know that, L8R?
Yeah, it came from T9 texting.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So again, the 411, I don't know what that is. Is that a response?
411.
I know, but what does it mean?
Information.
Okay, okay.
The 411. I don't know if that's a trucker.
That's I know 211 is United Way uses that as a code for if you want more information about what's going on in the community through United Way. So I did.
Isn't it like, oh, sorry, Deb.
No, that's right.
Isn't it like when you dial 411, you get an operator kind of thing?
See, I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that.
I think, I don't know. It's a possibility.
So you can see that just any question with the question mark, and I use that once in a while. Any questions? I use the question mark, but probably when I'm texting more than when I'm writing. So anyway, makes sense to you? Finding the right tone. You don't want to sound stuffy, and so as concise as you can be. I think that's a good lesson. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And did that change? I'm still sharing.
You're good.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Okay, so the guidelines for the conversational tone. And And like I said here, the secret is to use conversational style that is still businesslike, all right? So texting and writing, of course, is different. I think you guys understand that. So avoiding stale, and let me see if I can't find some, here, I've got it right here. When it talks about understand the difference between texting and writing, again, the acronyms, you know, they want you to get away from that. And it's good when you're texting. I don't know if I've shared with you guys or not, but when email first started and I would communicate with my kids, they were teens, or they were probably your age. They were probably your age when email started. It was in the 90s. So anyway, they would say, how come you're so proper when you're writing your responses and stuff back to us? And, you know, I just did that. Then I told them, when you get to working, you're going to have to do that. So I guess I'm just conditioned to do it that way. Now, when I'm texting, I use all kinds of abbreviations with them. You know, are you free? Are you free? You know what I'm saying? So, so it's kind of, we kind of have switched roles. It's kind of funny. But again, avoiding stale and pompous language, they're talking about, this was a heads up to me, is they said one of the phrases, a dated phrase, is attached, please find. I use that all the time. So it says, instead of that, please be advised, or please be advised, that was another one. So what else would you say besides attached, please find something? I don't know. It doesn't.
Like maybe,
I'm sorry.
like
Go
I
ahead.
have attached or something.
Okay. Well, it says, I'm sorry. There is another table here that I didn't give you guys a copy of. It says enclosed is, or I and we have enclosed. You know, I don't know, attached and closed. I don't know that it's that difference, but maybe you get rid of the please. See attached. Some of these the obsolete phrases, I'll share those with you. We are in receipt of, change to received. Kindly advise. The alternative to that is please let us know. The old outdated phrase is, it has come to my attention. And the new version would be, I have just learned, or someone has just informed me. In due course. And then it says, to do that, specify a time and a date. You know, by April 15th, this will happen. And then these are some others that it says, just say whatever you need to say, but these are permit me to say that, or pursuant to. In closing, I'd like to say, we wish to inform you that, please be advised that. So those are all outdated. They said, just tell them what you need. You know, we need this to happen. We need this to happen. So, you know, kind of a different take on it. Okay, so then the avoid preaching and bragging. I think that's kind of, we already talked about the know-it-all. Be careful with the level of intimacy. So you don't want to be too casual or assume too close of a relationship. And then be careful with humor. What they talked about there is, it's really easy to, you have to know the person to use humor well. They have to know you, or else they're going to kind of think that you're being kind of a smart aleck. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's the guidelines for conversational tone. So they talk about why use plain language, and this is something that I talked about this a little bit. Plain language is simple language. So looking at this slide, you know, what does it mean? I'll go ahead and get for just a couple minutes for you to look it over. So this is an example of, and they took this, I looked at the source they took this from, and it didn't really give me a place to go, but I put it in Google, and it came up in a document that had a whole bunch of phrases, visions, and different things that that organizations have, but I couldn't actually, I probably searched for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes through, it was a long document, and I never did find out who said this. I guess that's not really important, but I was just kind of curious. But what they're saying is, you should be able to understand what they're saying the first time. You should not have to read this again to understand what they're saying. So what is some of the complex language that's used here?
Isn't synergy a dead word?
Oh, I don't think it is. But what I see in this statement, and I see this quite often in papers, is that look how many descriptors there are of the deliverables. Synergistically, supply, value added deliverables. And does synergistically, does that go back to exist? See, what is synergy? Let's talk about that for just a minute. How would you explain synergy to little brother or sister? Or your mother?
Is it kind of like the cooperation between two parties, basically?
Well, synergy is what they're talking about. They use that a lot when you're talking about a team. So a team works together. A team together is much better than the singles alone. So if you have 4 people on a team, when you put them together, the 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals 7. You understand? Together they're stronger. So synergy is a real, to me, it's still a very good word. But synergistically, you know, I haven't heard that word. You know, I kind of would question whether that is even a word. But to synergistically supply, I mean, I think that's an adverb. It's describing how they would supply, but together they would supply value added deliverables. That's just a complex sentence. And how about we continually exist? What does that mean? I mean, they are, either you exist or you don't. I just think, so anyway, it's just a lot of extra words there. What else? What are some extra words that are stuck in there? What's your thoughts?
Such that, excuse me, ew. Such that we may continue to proactively.
Yep. The such that that's old. Such, you know, I don't even know. Yeah, that to me, that is, I mean, you could, I don't like the word so, but supply value added deliverables so we may continue to proactively, you know, then I kind of see the so to be used there, to enable us that we may continue, you know what I mean? There's just better words to say that. Anyway, lots of there, it could be said a lot simpler, correct? Everybody agree with that? Okay. And that's kind of what the thing is. What I will see in papers, just to give you a heads up too, is I will see 3 adjectives of something, of a noun, 3 adjectives, and that's just way too many. You need to have 1 adjective or say it in a different way. And I can't think of, maybe I'll look for that. Maybe I'll look for an example. Oh, I didn't check to see that we're recording. We're supposed to be recording. Let me check that for just a minute here. I don't see that we are, but I did set it that we would be. So I'm just going to trust that we are and check it with the second session here. But we've got about 10 minutes left, guys, before we go on to part 2. So we'll just keep moving here. So composing your message, and this is when you're working on your paper, okay? So great advice is when you're writing your first draft, what it says is don't polish it there. Just get started. Just get started somehow. And again, they gave some good tips from successful writers, which I thought were pretty powerful. Don't spend time working on the editing or making it perfect. I said if you can't, if you run into a wall, and everybody runs into a wall where you're just stuck, make up words if the right word won't come, draw pictures, talk out loud, anything to get the idea out of your head and onto the screen or onto the paper, okay? So don't let that stop you. The next slide talks even more about that, how to get unstuck. So they talked about that the successful writers believe that the hardest part to write of the paper is the introduction. So do that later, move on to something else, okay? So we talked about this, kind of an outline may help you to figure out what all the different areas of the paper you want to write about. And again, I've got the note up there to review your sources. To me, you know, one source is going to talk about this aspect, another source is going to talk about this aspect, or maybe one source talks about 2 or 3 of the things you want to talk about. Just get those different thoughts and different kind of subtopics written down. So then, and again, like I said, they don't even need to be in the correct order. You don't have to figure out, are you going to talk about this first or the next one? You'll figure that out when you get all the information together. And then if you're still stuck, take some time to work on the items that don't involve text. You know, what graphics are you going to use? Are there any charts from the sources that you're going to use, or create the cover page? Do something else. If you're still not ready to settle down, work on something else. Go on to another class. Something you're doing for another class, and come back to it. Okay. But then again, when you finally try that, you got to get started. Talk about why you're writing this, why you're researching this topic. And again, if you didn't find enough references on your paper, on your topic, it's not too late to look for another topic. So don't think that you're married to that one. The best advice I give people when they're writing is find something you're passionate about. That'll make all the difference in the world. It doesn't make it work. And it's kind of like if you have a great job, it's not work, it's more enjoyable because you love what you're doing. Okay, so if you want to know more about a topic, that's so helpful, so helpful. Okay, so we've got 6 minutes, almost 7 minutes left yet, so we'll just keep going here. There are 3 common layers of writing. And this is coming from again, successful writers, some of the advice. So choosing powerful words, and the difference between powerful words and just any other word is just, it's invaluable. Creating effective sentences. What I have found with a lot of writers over the years that I've looked at papers, and again, I love doing this. I love reviewing papers. I know when I talk to people about that, they think I'm kind of sick, but that's just one of the things I love to do. I love to make people better writers. And so creating effective sentences, what I have found, many people, they may have an introductory part of the sentence. So for example, if this happens, comma, blah, 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 and that's good. But there are some people that really have run-on sentences. If your sentence is about 4 lines long, even more than 2 lines, it's probably too long of a sentence. The best sentence is, if you look at people that are editing or reviewing writing, the simpler sentences are easier to read and they make more sense. So it just keeps the reader engaged. But I do find run-on sentences. And when I'm looking at papers also, if a paragraph takes almost a whole page, then you got to make several paragraphs out of that. You know, it's crazy to have it that. And then on the opposite side of the continuum is one sentence is not a paragraph. Okay, so your sentences need to be at least 2 sentences, if not more. So there's kind of a balance in between there. But what I found is when I'm reviewing your 4 pages, I will find that there's some people that have tendencies toward run-on sentences, and I'll let you know that. You know, it's just something to look out for. Like I tell students all the way through what you're learning, awareness is everything. Okay, so creating coherent and unified paragraphs, we're going to talk about that a little bit deeper too. We got 4 minutes left here. So let me see what the next, okay, choosing your words. So let's go to that, and then we'll go to, when we come back, we'll go to the handout, because there's some things about powerful words there. So again, choosing your words, and this says figure 5.4 that we'll go to in just a few moments. But the successful writers, as it says here, pay close to make sure they're using words in the correct manner. I still, on Facebook and in papers, one of the ones I get a biggest chuckle out of is defiantly. When people are saying definitely, they say defiantly. Okay, so what's the, June, you're here. Woo! Good going, guys. Good to see you. Anyway, sorry, I lost my thought there. What was I talking about? Blah. Oh, the definitely and defiantly. So you know what the difference is between those. But when somebody says, I am defiantly, this is defiantly done. I've seen it on Facebook lately. That's one of the biggest chuckles I get, because I know what they're trying to say. But again, this first point there, grammatical and usage errors damage your credibility. You know, if you don't know the difference between TOO and TO, or lose or loose, you know what I mean? All these things we've talked about. Go back to one of our first weeks of class where we talked about the misuse of grammar. You know, I'm not going to take you back there. I'm going to let you look at those, but there's some, maybe I'll move a couple of those articles into this week or next week's writing. But it does injure you, and then your credibility. Do they want to keep reading or not? Okay, so again. And another thing they want to talk about is the best writers choose words and phrases that'll be most effective in conveying the intended meaning. And that's where these powerful words come through, okay? And again, if we look at figure 5.4, and I'll bring it up when we change, when we change into the next section here, guys, in just a minute. It talks about, it has an example of an article here that was used. And so I will start our session out with that. We've got a little bit over a minute left here. Let's go on to the next slide so we don't have to switch to that. Okay, choosing active or passive voice, that's another table. So we'll get into that in just a moment. And I can't remember if someone in this class, let me look at the list here. And I lost the list. I'm not sure if anybody in this class has the active and passive voice. No, you don't. Okay, somebody in the other class is talking about active and passive voice. So that's something that people are not, lots of times are not aware of. So we will make sure that we look at that and talk about that in depth. So let's, there's just a minute left here. So I'm going to end this and we'll go on to the second part too. Okay, guys? We'll see you in just a moment.